Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome if you're new. My name is Shani, I'm 24 and I live and work in London as a consultant. In this video, I really wanted to share with you some of the negatives when it comes to the Big Four. If you haven't watched my testimony, I'll link in the card up here. I was obsessed with the Big Four in my final year. I couldn't see any other route but getting an offer from the Big Four. And I did reach to the final stage of the process where I was invited to an assessment center, but I decided to say no. And in this video, I just want to share with you some of the things that I discovered whilst I was researching the company, whilst I was networking with different employees, people who have worked in the company, people who are currently working in the company. I have a feeling that there is this almost a preconception that after you graduate, the only route to career progression is getting a job at the Big Four, and if you get anything less than that, you haven't done a good job. It's almost as if it's the Big Four or nothing else. Maybe you're someone who's applying for the Big Four, and maybe you were just as me, you thought that that was the only way to get to your dream place, to get to the place that you want to be, but I'm here to share the other side. And I just want to say that the Big Four is a great career progression place. It's definitely something that you can enter, you can work for a few years and then many doors will open. And I know that a lot of people say if you have the Big Four in your CV, your prospects are much broader. In this video, I just wanted to share with you some of the reasons why I decided not to attend the assessment center and essentially why I turned down the Big Four. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the application process. So if you're a graduate and you're going for the through the graduate route, you know, especially in the UK, the application for the Big Four is so long. Literally, in my experience, it took me maybe like 8 months until I reached the assessment center stage. I think there are like 5 or 6 stages up until you get the invite for the assessment center, and every stage before that it's automized. So it's not a person that's assessing you, it's essentially a computer. So it's either you're liked by the algorithm or you're not. There's nothing human in the whole assessment process, and that was something that really pushed me away to begin with. But then I was thinking I need to get through that so that I can get to the people who are actually going to assess me. But as I said, it took ages. I remember I submitted the form, then there was online assessment, which was untimed. Then there was another online assessment, which was parts of the assessment were timed, parts weren't. Then there was another stage, which was assessed by invigilators, which the event was live on Teams. It was maths tasks, like maths questions that you had to solve in like 10 or 15 minutes. And then the final stage eventually was assessment center, but I know that some people go through a phone call, which is quite unusual, and it's not something that's widely advertised when I was applying for the scheme. So yeah, the first thing that really can push you away, it pushed me away, is the application process. Because imagine wanting the role so much, knowing that you're good at it, knowing that you get the job, and having to wait for such a long time. It's almost as if they're keeping you away from your future, from progressing, and it's so sad. And imagine you get to the final stage and then the assessor doesn't like you for whatever reason and you get the no. It's the most utterly heart-dropping moment ever, and I couldn't imagine to go through all of that, to put all of your hopes in that one job, and then one single moment can ruin the whole waiting. 8 months of waiting could be ruined. The application process is managed so bad, and I don't understand why it's done, because there is such a high demand. However, it's just not fair for the applicants to be made to wait for so long to get an answer. I remember like when I was passing through the stages, like I passed the first stage, oh, you are in the waiting room for X amount of time, we're gonna contact you when you move to the next stage. And then I wait for like 1 month or 2 months, and then oh, you move to the next stage. It was so long, and by the end of it I was like, I genuinely I feel like there must be another way, and there is. So you can also apply for the Big Four to do the normal route as a professional or junior in the company rather than the grad scheme. But obviously there are benefits and disadvantages in that route as well. And there is just any other career route that you take after uni. But this is the first thing that I wanted to talk about, the application process. It was just so long, and I don't think it's made fair for people. The other thing that made me almost open my eyes was the working hours. When I was talking with different professionals from the companies, and mind you, I was networking with people who are graduates, to people who've been working in the company, to people who are professionals. And the key thing that I always asked them was, what are your working hours like? Because I had a very specific role that I wanted to get into, and that was mergers and acquisitions. So that's corporate finance. As you know, corporate finance is a very demanding area of the business. Know that we can expect that the hours would be absolutely crazy. So that was one of my first questions that I asked, like, what are your hours like? And even though I was researching for my discipline around this, I discovered that the hours are super long for any other disciplines as well. So whether it's consulting, like management consulting, whether you're doing accounting, whether you are in tax, usually the hours, it's the norm. Like, it's like the culture of these companies. It's like when you enter, like, you're expected to work these crazy hours. You're expected to give literally your life to the company. They're literally buying you. They're almost like buying your soul, and they almost make it look like it's the coolest thing ever to work long hours, to be exhausted, to be this, to be that. And by the end of the day, I sat down and I was like, yeah, my career is so important to me, but I also want to have life. I also want to spend time with my friends. I'll be maybe living in London and I want to experience the city, and having like working long hours, I wouldn't have been able to do that because I would have always like think about work. I get to have this client, have this deadline. And sometimes in my job right now, like, I'm required to stay a bit longer, but it's not something that I'm expected to do on daily basis. And I could definitely say that my work, I can definitely complete it within the time frame that I'm given, within the normal working hours. And even if I have to stay a bit longer, it's not something that's daily. And that was so different than what was happening in the Big Four when I was speaking with these people, when I was seeing their lives. I even remember I had a chat with one professional. She was working in accounting, and she was telling me that some of her team members, they're looked upon when they decide to leave the office at 5 o'clock. They are literally looked upon, and it's like, this is what, it's not healthy. It's what's romanticized, and this is what looks cool, and it's not. Like, it really is not. Your health, your mental health, your social life, these things are important, and work shouldn't take over your life. Hours were something that really put me off of the Big Four. Okay, in relation to the hours, let's talk about the salary. And I'm talking about the salary only in specific to the graduates, the graduate intake and graduate applications, and just like entering the Big Four as a graduate. As I said, I've spoken with people, I've networked. I knew what I would get when I first joined the company, and I do understand that for the first 3 years, obviously, it's part of the grad scheme. Whilst you're developing, whilst you're doing the qualifications and stuff like that, it's normal to be paid a bit less. But like, to be paid around the minimum living wage in London for the hours that you work and the value that you add to the company, and for the London standard of living, it's unacceptable. I don't think that it's worth it that much to give your life and to be so invested in something and then not even be rewarded the right way. So the other thing that the Big Four tries to sell, and why I sort of like try to think a bit differently about, is the qualifications. So they say in the first 3 years of your graduate scheme, that's why it's a graduate scheme, you'll be studying towards a qualification. And that's all right, because if you really see yourself going into accounting, going into finance, like, you can do these ACA or ACCA qualifications, which are usually so expensive if you want to do them on your own. But in the case that you get through the graduate route, this is subsidized for you by the company, so you can do this qualification for free, essentially. Just fair enough. But if you think about the fact that you have to study another 3 years after you've just finished studying 3 years if you've done bachelor's, so 4 years if you've done master's, it's just ridiculous. Like, do you really want to do that? I mean, if you're entering into the career knowing that's 100% what you want to do for the rest of your life, for the rest of your career, yeah, like go ahead and invest another 3 years of your career studying and preparing for these exams. And mind you, these exams are super tough. They're like tough exams. I think the ACA, it's maybe like 20 exams or something like that. I don't know. It's a lot of exams. Do you really want to study? And I had to ask myself that question, and I realized that no, like I don't want to do something that I'm not going to be happy at. I don't want to do something that's not aligned with my heart. And I really had to sit down and be honest with myself and be like, do I really want to study another 3 years? Do I really want to do this job? Would I really be happy? And I think these are questions that are so important to ask yourself, and it's so important to not allow culture or your friends group or even your family to talk you into things that you might not be 100% confident in your heart that you want to go into. The other reason why I said no to the Big Four was their whole business ethic in general. So I'm just talking very widely here, but I realized that I don't want to work for a company that helps other companies get richer and richer and don't actually give anything back to societies or the environment or anything. I realized that the key motto, the key aim of these businesses is to generate more money, to make their clients more rich, to make them happier. And I was like, do I really want to help other businesses get richer and richer? And what's the return on the society? What's the return on the environment? What's the wider impact of my work? Is there a wider impact of my work? This was another reason why I decided to say no. And finally, as I said earlier, the final reason was the role itself. I really wanted to get into a role that would challenge me, that would keep me on my toes, that I'll be stretched even. And that's why I went for M&A, mergers and acquisitions, because I thought that this was where I would excel and this is where I'll be so happy. And the first thing that I realized is that I have to be so committed to this role, and I have to be 100% sure that I want it, because it's such a big commitment. It's like 3 years learning for this qualification, 3 years investing, studying, literally like stretching yourself whilst working full time, become a chartered professional. And I haven't even tried this role. I haven't even done any internships in this area. I didn't know whether I would like it, and I was like, do I want to risk it? Is this the route for me? And this is the time when I had to really pray about it, and I really had to seek the Lord. And I am talking more about this in the video linked again here in the card. But it really is going back to the Lord and seeing what He's calling you to do. And I quickly realized that the role, even though it sounded so interesting, and even though it sounded something that I definitely want to be exposed at some point in my career, it wasn't something that I want to be involved in 100% of my time. So this is how the Lord just ordained everything to happen in the most beautiful way, and He gave me my dream job, and now I'm 6 months in and I'm so happy. So yeah, these are some of the reasons why I said no to the Big Four, and maybe things that you could consider if you're in the same boat as me, and if you think that the only way is the Big Four. There is so much more out there, so much more. I cannot even tell you. Like, there are so many routes that you can go after uni. Don't limit yourself by only going for the Big Four and seeing this as an option, because there is so much out there. And if you need any help or any direction or anything like that, just let me know in the comments below or reach out. I have all of my socials down below. I'll be more than happy to have a chat with you. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in my next one.